Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tesla Life number 83 for January 30th, 2019. End of the month already, almost tomorrow. Woo! Woo! Welcome to the show. We've got a ton of news, and of course, today was earnings call day, so there might be something on that later in the show. But first, let me introduce our co-host tonight, Mr. Russell Frost. Yep, that's
what's the co-host thing? Do I have to do something?
You're co-hosting.
Oh, yeah.
Get the co-host script out. Start reading.
Oh, no. I don't have a... You got to send me the script. Anyway, hey, everybody. It's Tesla earnings call day. Everyone in Chicago is freezing to death.
Yay.
Oh, sorry, Tony.
Screw you.
That's all I got. Hey, did I mention it's like 68 here in San Diego?
No, you haven't.
Do you see the sun coming in the window in the back?
No.
I'm wearing a t-shirt. Hate on me all you want, haters.
Oh, I will.
And that's enough of Russell for this evening. Tony.
What's the wind chill there?
Oh, okay. Yes. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm in Chicago. Hashtag polar vortex. It is currently minus 15 Fahrenheit, which, if my math is correct, works out to minus 26. Feels like minus 37 centigrade. So that's awesome. And of course, I always hate complaining because I know that there's always someone norther than me.
You mean like the host of the show?
The Northers.
The Northerners. Yes. But this is record-setting cold for Chicago. Usually it doesn't get quite this cold and sustained. So, but here's what's interesting. It's going to be above freezing this weekend.
Russell, we're going to block your video feed, so put that down.
Have a catastrophic video feed failure from San Diego.
And certainly not last but not least, our friend Dr. Evan Fusco in Central Missouri.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's somewhere in between probably Russell and Tony down here in Missouri today. So we got a little chilly, but not quite worth the drama that has been on TV. Yeah,
it's fun, isn't it?
Oh, I forgot to mention, it's so cold in Chicago they literally set the train tracks on fire.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool.
That was on the news. I saw that.
Yeah.
I approve of that.
That actually was the best thing to come out of this whole thing is like railroad tracks on fire.
That is interesting. And why, pray tell, would they set the tracks on fire? Do you know? Like, is there what reason?
Yeah, it is a freezing, and from what I understand, the shrinkage of the metal and could cause misalignment and other things.
Like
so catching them on fire solves that problem. Short term.
Apparently, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like you'd have to set like the whole
thing, right? And that's maybe the part, or maybe it's only the part that's over a bridge or not,
or maybe where they exchange the
switch track.
Oh yeah, the switch.
Yeah, switches maybe there, so they line up properly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone in the chat room is a railroad executive, send us a note as to what's going on, because it really doesn't make sense to us.
We'll appreciate it, and then we'll insult you, and you won't want to come back. So that's how it works here.
That's it. Yeah, and Russell's putting up photos. Yeah, let's show that to everyone.
Oh.
That does look frozen.
That would be nice. I hate on that, right?
And that's enough from Russell.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm going to get kicked off this show here before.
Yeah, you're close. You're close.
Right.
Well, everybody, we've got a ton of news this week as normal because, of course, there's never a dull moment in the Tesla life. There's always something going on. But let's start with a story about some temperature and elevation data that's being updated in the Tesla trip computer. As some of you know, I recently set on a 2,000 kilometer trip between Ontario and Orlando, And I used the Trip computer for the first time in earnest. And I was happy to report that it was pretty dead on with its amount of charge I required to get to the next supercharger stop and for the timing for arriving. But apparently Tesla has been taking data in from all the different new cars out there, and they've been amassing it into the Trip computer to make it a little bit more accurate for elevations and regional temperature changes. So this was reported on recently that they are adding this information to their, I guess, neural net to better make predictions about arriving and what your charge or state of charge would be, and of course timing that you will be arriving on, and what you will have left in that particular charge. So it's good to see that they're adding to this, and with the, I guess, great amount of new cars that are coming on the road, that they're taking this information in and pouring it into making the guesstimates even better.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we took our Model X to San Antonio and back just after Christmas, and I don't know if all this was in there then, but it definitely seemed on that trip that things were much more accurate as far as the predictions of the amount of time it would take, and usually the amount of charge that you would have left. I found it was fairly conservative, which is definitely a change from the early years where it was very aggressive. And let's just say that you would be very lucky to get the amount of range that it estimated, and it generally underestimated the amount of time that you would have to charge. And they seem to flip-flop that just a little bit, so it's more reasonable. So I guess it's sort of that overpromise or underpromise, overdeliver kind of situation that they're doing now, because it seems pretty good. And we were usually able to stop charging 10 to 15 minutes earlier than the computer had suggested it would be.
Right. So you found in your last, and when was that, Evan? When was your last trip?
End of December.
End of December.
Right after Christmas.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So my trip was just before Christmas, and I found it pretty good at that point. But I've got nothing, besides that one trip so I'm not sure if it was better or not. But certainly I was pleased with his performance. Next,
I was gonna say, I think it's awesome that Tesla has the ability, certainly, and they're improving the algorithms. This is what they can do. Again, that over-the-air updates, the instantaneous stuff. If they can do better, they're doing better, and I think everyone benefits from that.
Absolutely. Our next story was.
Wait, just more than one story this week?
Do you still not have the co-host notes?
Yeah, I'm a bad co-host.
Our next story is from Fremont.
Fremont?
A little town in California called Fremont every once in a while. Mm-hmm. But what has happened is that the Fremont Police Department has picked up their first Tesla.
Woohoo!
And what's interesting is they have purchased a used Tesla. So this car they've picked up recently for about $61K, and they converted it into a patrol car. And get this, they expect to save $30,000 in fuel per year.
Whoa.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
That is a tremendous amount of fuel. I cannot believe that they're spending $30,000 per patrol car on the streets of California. That's crazy.
This has long been one of my bugaboos with police departments. Let's buy police officers V8 powered SUVs and muscle cars, and then give them license to go through every intersection.
Right.
And then let's be surprised when we spend $30K a year in gasoline
for one car.
One car.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So
now,
this is really interesting because my daughter asked me just the other day, why don't the police use electric cars? Wouldn't that save them on gas?
not manly enough.
Yeah, apparently.
And well, this is interesting and I don't know how the Fremont Police Department got a hold of this car, if it was through the regular market or if they went to Tesla and asked for one that was used. But I would think that Tesla would be happy to provide the Fremont Police Department with a sweet deal on a number of used Model S's, as this one is, just because it promotes them. And I think that there is a number of used S's on the road, or in the market that could be used. And you'll notice that in this particular photo, it is one of the older S's with the cone front. So it is definitely an older S. Yeah. But now, of course, the only problem I could foresee is, and they address this a little bit in the article, is about the conversion. Obviously, a patrol cruiser has to have certain things like grates and things that separate the back passenger from the front, or computer mounts and rifle mounts in the car or in the trunk there, and of course the lights and the push bar in this particular case. So there are extra expenses to outfit the car to become a patrol car, but I hope they have great success with this, because saving $30K a year, just takes you 2 and a bit years, and you've paid the car off just in fuel savings.
Right, and that is just the gasoline. I mean, think of how rough they drive these cars, the transmissions, the brakes, gears, all the other things. Yeah, I was going to say brakes, and then I realized that is kind of on both, I guess. But going electric instead of conventional. And brakes, I guess, if they actually use regenerative braking, or they just stomp on the brakes or whatever. But I mean, 30,000 is the gas, and then you build on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. So here's to the Fremont Police Department. Let's hope the test is successful.
Cheers, Fremont.
Yeah, and here's hoping that that other places pick up, and hopefully Fremont will have a huge success, and this will become Maine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And while you're at it, if you haven't seen it before, Google sneaking up weeds.
Oh my God!
An oldie but a goodie.
Yes. Unfortunately, we can't show it on the show, right? And all that stuff.
Why not?
But
I was just going to put it up.
Here,
no,
there's probably better link. Yeah, maybe. There's a better link too, but it's longer video. So. But anyway, it's a sneaking
up weeds
for the show weeds. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next story. Again about Fremont. Recently, the Fremont factory, Tesla's factory, they cut their night shift for Model S and X. So they were running 3 shifts a day, and they cut it down to 2. This may be because of the fact that recently they cut the 75 kilowatt battery car from the lineup on both the S and the X side.
They also cut 7% of their workforce.
Right. So that could be another reason. But it stands to reason that with the reduction in those cars, that they didn't need as many people on the shift through regular work hours. So they decided to get rid of the night shift at this time, still continuing with 2 shifts. But I don't know. It just makes sense. Obviously, but could that hurt their bottom line selling cars?
They can't produce enough cars to get to customers.
Correct.
So the magic part of this equation is, has demand slowed?
Right. Or is it also because of course, if they've dropped those cars from the lineup, are those people switching to 3s that were getting the 75? We don't know. There is another story at the end of this show, or closer to the end, that may address some of this.
Yeah. I think this is an interesting time, things are going to have to find a new normal. The $7,500 tax credit's gone, and these cars are really expensive to start with, and all of a sudden the incentive, motivation, inspiration for running out and buying one has kind of gone away. And I think maybe people are taking their time and kind of assessing, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where it all settles out.
Well, and let's be clear. I mean, S and X are old cars.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be mean here or anything, but these are hardly new vehicles. They've gone through iterations, of course, but they're still essentially the car that they were when they were introduced. At some point, the next big change in both these models is going to be changing over to 2170, which we all have suspected is coming up soon.
Yep.
That they're easing down on the production of the current SNX is probably not that panic inducing.
All right. Yeah, I don't think so.
That was me saying something good.
Wow. See what happens.
Oh,
when you come
good.
up?
Good is a stretch. Rational, sensible. I've got other adjectives, but good.
Our next story, I'm going to skip one. And Tony, I was hoping that you could pull up a Twitter pic that I'm having difficulty with because it's a video from our feed about the Model 3 lighting.
Oh,
but
do you want me to do the
while you
one
do
after
that? While you do that, Tony, we've got a story from Russell.
Somebody,
Well, let's talk about violent vandals in Utah going crazy, running rogue. No, this is something, honestly, that I'm kind of surprised hasn't happened before. I'm glad it hasn't, and I'm sad to see it happen here. It's pointless. It's destructive. It's idiotic. It's just as idiotic as those people in trucks that park in front of superchargers because for some reason that makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, there was a supercharger in St. George, Utah recently that was vandalized. And I will say one positive thing, Evan Fusco, about the vandals. They got balls cutting into these big, heavy electrical cords. Okay. That is not something I would do lightly. Now, you can assume there's no electricity running through the charging cable when it's not plugged in, but it is an assumption. You don't know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, this seems to be, again, there are these isolated incidents in different parts of the country where people are angry at Tesla. I don't know. They just want to do something stupid and pointless, very much so. And in this case, they cut cables and drilled out the pins.
Yeah.
Here, I'll show you.
They drilled out a pin.
There's so that's what it looks like there. This is actually there. They drilled out one of the charging pins. I mean, they're doing anything they can to shut the supercharger down. Why? Well, again, why do people that would do something like this do what they do? It's hard to get into that weird primate brain.
How bored do you have to be?
Well, how bored and drunk on bad beer or something? I don't. And like, okay, so, here's a supercharger. There's two idiots in big Ford trucks for some reason parked in front. Oh, like, wait. And then there's an Explorer. And so, I don't get what these people think they're accomplishing, but I'm going to probably go with exceptionally small genitals and frustrated lives.
You might be onto something there. I think you've nailed it.
Yeah, it's interesting that we had saw this previously with just the parking, and now we're seeing some vandalism going on. And I'm wondering if Tesla is going to have to maybe invest a little bit in the security at these sites. If this is ongoing, are they going to have to put in some sort of a camera system or an alarm system of sorts that they keep track of it? Obviously, the problem is very small at this point. We've only heard of one incident at this point. But as with the parking trucks, that seemed to grow a little bit once the first news story got out. We had copycats doing it again. So I guess we'll have to wait to see. But I would think that those sites, since they are connected by cellular connection now through those superchargers to relay information, that maybe a 360 camera on a pole inside the walled area for the actual electrical equipment might be in order.
Yeah, I don't think that would be difficult.
Yeah. And look, let's be clear. Every day across the country, some idiot drives away from the gas pump with the hose still plugged in the back of their car. And
Yeah,
the
but
anchor
that's an idiot. Like that's
right. Well, these are idiots too,
Yeah.
but just different idiots.
Just these are malicious idiots.
Right.
Yeah. That's stupidity. That's not vandalism.
My only point is that there's a cost of doing business.
Yes.
And this isn't crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. It's just not.
Yeah, but the relative level of inconvenience is much higher. You know, you disable a supercharger site or block most of the chargers, and you've got people that have no other reasonable options for fueling. Whereas, one broken gas pump.
And I believe in this particular Utah case, there was only 3 of them that were damaged. The other 5 were okay. But still, that's a reduction in service available at that particular supercharger. I have no idea how busy it is. Some people on our Twitter feed indicated that that's a fairly common through point. So it's used by travelers a lot. I don't know if that's the case or not, but some had commented on that.
Do you think that it might reach a point, and I think this would be going way too far. And I don't know that this would stop everyone, but I hate to say, man, it just gets worse the more I think about it. I was going to say gated community kind of thing, that that you get a card, you use your Tesla Valet card, or you use something, you swipe it, the gate opens, you can pull in, you can fuel, and then you can leave. But then
that's going to get expensive,
and it escalated in my head because people could just climb the fence.
Yeah.
Then
we got to electrify the fence and put razor wire on it. And what are the snowplows going to do?
Build the wall.
And make the ice holes pay for it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just leave that. We don't know where it's going, but just one reported story. It's not widespread at this point.
And
we'll keep our eye on it.
I am mildly depressed that it did not end with someone receiving one hell of a shock.
Yeah.
I don't wish him dead. I don't. But how awesome.
Just some transient CPR.
Yeah. To say they did 3 of them, and one of them has a big black char, which means that's why they stopped.
So back in the old days, I worked for Aetna Commercial Insurance. We did liability insurance for a company called General Dynamics here in San Diego. And that company makes Tomahawk missiles, a whole bunch of things. And they had a whole bunch of factories, and a bunch of the facilities were closed down. This was back in the late 80s when metal prices were just soaring, right, of all kinds. 3 people went into one of the old factories to mine the copper wire, the heavy copper wire, from one of the production facilities, figuring they get rich overnight with hundreds of pounds of copper. Of course, General Dynamics had never turned the power off. And of the 3 thieves, the surviving one sued General Dynamics because they maliciously left the electricity on.
So the thieves sued
General Dynamics
and won.
No. We successfully defended that. It was ridiculous. Okay. But of course they, spent money. I guess my point is that, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if somebody does get hurt doing something ridiculously stupid like this, wait for it. It never ends.
I do understand that there is no electricity flowing through that cord until it's successfully been plugged into a car and it's read the serial code and it lets the power flow at that point. There is nothing in that cord until it's been successfully plugged in.
Well, don't tell people that. You need to tell people that it's live all the way to the tip immediately.
Put your tongue on one of the charging points.
It's just like a 9-volt battery.
Yeah.
Just a bit more of a jolt.
Yes.
Just a bit. A little.
You get a little bit of a buzz. Everything's okay.
Do not take any advice on this show to heart. That's just a disclaimer we should lay out at the beginning. But next, Tony's got a little video for us of a modified Model 3.
Yeah, so let me get the sharing going here.
Oh my God.
And we'll
What
share it
the
to
hell
everybody.
is going on there?
Boom.
Oh,
So there's a
my.
modded Model 3 with over 300 individual LED lights hooked to a computer little system that updates the colors, allows you to play with whatever you want for color generation and timing. And this gentleman that we know from our Twitter feed at the Tesla Life was sharing this information just this week of his new addition to his actually it's a wrapped Model 3, a purple wrapped Model 3.
Purple wrap is insane.
Exactly.
I remember this is the same one or just a different light show, but
same car, yep, just different light show.
Just different lights. Yeah.
But I
those
thought it was so
lights.
cool just to see, like, I love to see these modifications that everyone's putting on their threes to make them unique. You know, obviously many people wouldn't choose this option. I could see that if Tony or myself had this in the northern climb, I can't see how the slush and the snow would keep off of the little LED light. And you'd be under the car every day cleaning each individual light so it would shine through properly.
Yes.
but we thought the video was pretty cool.
Yeah,
so.
that is pretty cool. Yeah.
I love that. I'm sorry. I do.
Now, I do know that in some states, and I want to say Indiana is one of them because I grew up in Indiana, that it is against the law to have exterior lights like that. Because I knew people who put lights around their license plates, or they did atmosphere.
But that is if the car's in motion. If it's parked, I think
you
can do whatever you want.
Yeah, if it's parked, right. But I would want to roll down the street with undercarriage lighting like that.
Oh yeah, man! You want to look like a UFO, you know?
yes. And that was Nate McComb's car. So a big shout out to Nate and his new addition.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
very good.
This is one of those where I say, well, if it makes you happy, then it's great.
There you go.
Was that a disapproval? Are you serious?
That was just not my taste.
Not that everyone's got different tastes.
Oh, I have another picture. Here's a picture I have. It's the actual lights themselves, so you can see how the lights are put up.
Okay, the outline under the car.
Yeah, so it's not like a solid array. Yeah, it's that.
Yeah, he didn't individually glue 600 LEDs to the bottom of the car
and then solder each of them to each other. I mean, just to make sure that. And of course, it's like the old Christmas lights. If one goes out, the whole thing is
out. No, I mean, but that's the cool thing about that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do the next thing?
Absolutely.
So only because, I lived in Pennsylvania for a long time. And Pennsylvania is a very interesting place. I hope it's the next right. Yeah, I'm not jumping. Okay. And I'm going to show a picture of what this is. This is probably, in my opinion, the coolest charger you could have. Now, why is one that looks like an old retro gas pump cool? Well, not because gas is cool, but because those things had style back then.
Yeah.
And check out that charger.
And the lights and the detail and everything. Yeah.
And of course, for those of you, and I'm not a fan of the band, but I work in the music business, of course, using the Tesla band logo on the globe above the charger.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. That's Tesla the band, not Tesla the car company's logo. So that's their logo. So it's a really kind of weird little double meta, old school, new school thing. It's great. This is in Coopersburg, Pennsylvania, just south of Allentown. And you know what? Right on.
Oh, yeah. It's a business, right? It's a business that put it up. The Scoop. If you go down a little bit in the,
it is. He owns an ice cream parlor.
Right. So he's using this as a draw to his business as well.
Right. Yeah. So you get free electrons when you buy some ice cream.
There you go.
Wow.
Sprinkle those on top.
Right. I think that's a yeah. I do think it's a sprinkle.
I hope those are sprinkles.
Uh,
Wow, you guys had to go there, didn't you? So, I mean, a cool idea, a business owner doing a cool thing. Now, I don't know. I guess it didn't say it is just a charger for Tesla. It's not like a.
Yeah, it's definitely a wall charger from Tesla.
Yeah,
that's strapped on the side of that gas pump.
Modified gas pump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they did leave the actual unit on the outside. Although I have seen some that have put the Tesla wall connector right inside of the gas, so you can't even see it at all. But this they elected to keep it on the outside, probably for maintenance.
That's exceptionally cool.
Yeah,
what the heck, man?
This is something that
that's
fun. Like if I had if I had room in the garage, I would buy one of these old pumps and do that, and just like have it in the garage. So I can
very cool conversation piece.
Yeah,
and certainly would impress the neighbors, I'm sure.
And then maybe serve ice cream, on the side.
On a secondary thought, exactly.
Yeah.
Our next story is about longevity. So the company that I'm sure everyone's heard of before, Tesloop, based out of Southern California, what they do is, of course, they basically use a fleet of Teslas as, buses, basically driving groups of people from the LA area to Palm Springs to Las Vegas and other destinations, where they have these cars on a continual loop that are going back and forth from those destinations, transporting one or multiple individuals at a time between points. So, of course, their vehicles click up a lot of miles on any given month. And one of their original Model X's just cleared the 350,000 mile mark. And they were, again, pleased with publishing its maintenance schedule over that period of time. I believe they spent a total of $18,000 in maintenance over the complete life of the vehicle that they've had it. And the battery degradation in that vehicle was a low single-digit amount. I believe it was 9%. That was over that period of time as well. The car's basically driving 20,000 miles a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, that's above the typical North American driving of about 12,000. That is in a year. Yeah. This car is doing well over that in one given month. So, and the car is going to keep on going. They're going to keep driving it. Obviously, they hope for many more. But again, haven't replaced a motor, haven't replaced a battery. Everything's been fine with the car. Of course, with regular maintenance that has to be performed, like tire rotations and tires themselves and things of that nature. But a set of brakes has been done at this point. But really, a low maintenance car for the amount of mileage that's been put on it.
Those numbers, comparing it to the Mercedes GLS and the Lincoln Town Car, are really impressive. So for $19,000 for the Tesla versus almost $89,000 for the Town Car and $99,000 for the Mercedes, or about 400,000 miles, so over similar mileage. And then gas and everything.
Yeah, you throw in gas. And we know how expensive gas is in Southern California, right? 30,000 for a patrol car.
Right.
So
now the only thing I didn't see included in this story was the fact that one of their previous vehicles actually required 3 battery replacements over its 400,000 miles.
Really?
That would have been an S, correct?
Wasn't it? I think so.
Yeah, I believe it was an S. Yeah, one of the early S's. Because Tesla Loop started up pretty close after the S was debuted. So they got one of the close to the original ones.
Yeah. So now Battery Tech should be, let's see, it delivered July 2015 was that S. So it was a little bit later model, but yeah, still impressive. And you got to think that Battery Tech and battery maintenance systems are getting better.
So this is a good article to have in hand when people say, "Well, I would, but the technology is just not there," and I'm waiting.
Aren't you replacing your batteries every year and a half?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. Save this one in your bookmarks for the next online forum battle.
Our next forte is a little story about Toyota customers and what has been happening on the Toyota sales side of things. Evan's got that for us.
Yeah, so this is another one out of Electrek.
Sorry.
Fred Lampert. You'll never, if any of you have ever heard of this guy new to the scene. So if only somebody smart would have thought that maybe Toyota should get into the electric vehicle market years ago, but unfortunately that never occurred to anyone.
No.
But apparently Prius is now suffering a bit of and decreased Prius sales. They're saying a 9% owner defection rate in North America, and about half of those are going to Tesla. Which is pretty interesting. So this article includes some data about the top 5 cars that people are moving from to the Model 3. Number 1 was Toyota Prius, then BMW 3 Series, Honda Accord, Honda Civic, and Nissan Leaf. And those are probably really not big surprises for anyone that those are kind of at the top. But Toyota is facing uncharacteristic defections from one of the brand's most recognizable products, the Prius, to one of the industry's upstarts, Tesla. Now, what caught me on I just there weren't any hard numbers in here about how many cars, how many Priuses we're talking about and things. So I just pulled up a table of the numbers, and at its peak in the United States, about 147,000 Priuses, is that 1,000? I think it's 1,000, were sold per year. That was in 2012. It came down just a little bit in 13, and there's a big drop in 2014. Now, who remembers when Tesla started selling the Model S in big numbers? Right, about 2013, 2014. And so you went from 147 to 145 to 122 to 113. And in 2016, it went down to 98,000. 2017, 65,000. And 2018, less than 50,000. Those are dramatic numbers. So they can throw out 9%, but to me, I think you have to look at the bigger impact. And well, certainly I don't think Tesla can take full credit for that. Toyota's got a problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Toyota knows they have a problem because they recently said that they're going to work on battery technology.
In fairness, it's not just people going to EVs; it's people abandoning sedans.
Sure, I think you're probably right, but I think there's look, Prius was a gateway drug for a lot of us.
Sure,
and I assure you that there's quite a few there, and I think that 9% number, or actually 4.5%, is probably very low ball.
Mm.
Probably. I mean, Toyota, like Tesla, Toyota's not a super hey, here's all our numbers kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They play everything pretty close to the vest.
Sure.
But between people leaving sedans and going to SUVs, things like the RAV4 hybrid in the Toyota line, or the Lexus UX, or whatever, and then obviously the pressure from Model X and Model 3 to make that next step. As you said, Prius is the perfect gateway drug to an EV, and they certainly lost ground to Leaf and to Bolt and Model 3.
Yeah, it was a storm that was coming their way for some time
that they ignored.
And you saw that in Evan's numbers that it just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping as the years go by. So they certainly knew they had a problem. Only they know really what the actual breakdown is. But as said, there's definitely a problem, and it's not getting any better.
See, the whole thing strikes me. I mean, I get the gateway drug thing, and this has come up on Prius Chat and other Prius forums where people will say, a hybrid is the gateway car to a plug-in hybrid or a BEV when, if that's available. What I really find interesting is that most of the Prius drivers I talk to, a lot of them are very conservative. They're happy that they have their $25,000 to $30,000 Prius. They like the form factor. They like the hatchback. I just don't see a lot of those people trading in their $30,000 Prius for a car that costs 3 times as much, even if it has a cord and is fully electric.
What if it's only double?
Well, if it's only double, still a lot of the one I talk to, they're, I know a lot of them are very, they're very engineer oriented, electrical engineer, mechanical engineers. I know a lot of them are very, I have my car, this is how much it costs. And if you gave me twice as much money, I would just buy 2 of them. I wouldn't buy one car that costs twice as much.
Yeah. Just remember, there's a lot of selection bias on those Prius forum. You're going to have a certain quality of enthusiast there, and I think just depending on the market, I think there are people hungry for a better option that was economical and kind of met their feel good about being green factor, but also gave them some performance, and we just haven't had that.
Right, and I get that. The S and X were out when I bought my Prime. But I bought my Prime because it was under 40,000 and 50.
It was half the price. I mean,
absolutely. Well, before we move on here, I'd like to let people know, if you're watching the show tonight, please press the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Give us another number. We really would appreciate it. We've had some good amounts come in lately, and we don't want to slow the momentum. So remember to click that button, click the little bell if you want to get an alert whenever the show starts. We would appreciate it.
So we have a show title of $35,000 a year, and then another show title of "Damn, It's Cold."
I like Lick a Supercharger for fun.
That's a good one.
Lick a Supercharger is pretty good, right?
Exactly. So if you have a show title in the live chat, you can put in and interact with us through the show. Send us a note, and we may pick one of your titles for the show title at the end of the show. Next, we might. Next, we've got a story about the S and the X batteries and software limited batteries at that. So we heard the story earlier from last week that Tesla was, of course, dropping the 75 kilowatt battery from the S and the X platforms. And what we heard just yesterday, thanks to Patrick Connor, who sprung the story on us. Thanks, Patrick.
The heck with him. Oh.
He indicated there was a news story leaked just yesterday that the S and the X batteries are all going to be produced at the 100 kilowatt pack size, and they would start to be limited by kilowatts by a software block that's going to be put in place. And there's going to be 3 levels of pack sizes and 3 different pricings based for those models as well. And of course, with the software block, an owner would be able to buy at the lowest rate, and over time, if they wanted to, increase the pack size by unlocking the pack and giving them more kilowatt to access in that actual 100 kilowatt pack. But the best thing about this, I believe, is that if you get the lower priced car, you, of course, in reality, have a 100 kilowatt pack in the car. There's nothing stopping you from charging up to 100% on that battery pack, and you'd still have the buffer above that to protect the battery degradation. So unlike a regular one where you may have, say, a 75 kilowatt pack, you could go up to 75 when you wanted to, but it's not suggested you do that on a daily commute. They want you to use that battery power immediately, not keep it in the car. But with this case, you'd be able to charge it up to the 100% and still know that there's a percentage of the pack that's open because it's still that 100 kilowatt pack. So I think that is the best possibility for someone getting this car. You get it at a cheap rate and can use 100% of the battery's software locked ability, which is fantastic.
There you go.
Yeah.
I got nothing except we don't really have any evidence that that's actually how it's playing out. No, I'm not. I have no evidence that you're wrong. And what you say makes perfect sense, Mark. I guess what I'm questioning, though, is like how are they doing it? Are they in fact using the entire pack and just limiting the charge, or are they blocking off certain physical parts of the pack, which would seem to maybe make less sense, but we don't really know.
They have done this in the past,
right?
With a software locked battery.
Right.
And basically what was done in the past was it was just a software block. The pack was actually that size. There was no physical block on it. If you charged the car up to 100%, it still had the buffer between it and the actual physical size. So in essence, you could use 100% of the battery pack's use at any time.
Right. It kind of has to use all the cells, Russell. There's not
right.
I
agree. We don't know. We don't have any evidence. And
so it sounds like it's software limited with a Hurricane Reserve.
There you go. Because of course, famously, Elon has released the software lock on cars that were in a natural disaster to allow people to get extra mileage to get out of town.
Also, breaking news. I just heard from the chat room. So I got Hockey Day and Derek and David in the chat room saying that on the conference call today, Elon said that they are not going to use the 2170 for the Model S or X.
That's correct. Not yet. Yeah. So this new pack is still using the 18650.
Yeah.
And
whoa.
And that is something that is interesting. We know that they will migrate to the 2170 at some point, but it's not at this point.
You think maybe they have the batteries and they're using them up so they can transition?
Or they've got a contract with Panasonic and they have to go a certain volume, and that's just all there is to it.
Oh yeah, and Hockey Day says no plans at all to use the 2170.
Not at this point.
Well, there were plans.
Well, at this point or at all.
Yeah, we don't know.
I gotta believe they're going to use it at some point. I really do.
Yeah.
Right. It would seem to make sense, but then again, I mean, honestly, the numbers pencil out here. That's what I'm kind of tripping on. Like they can afford to put 100 kilowatts in every car, yet I'm going to buy an 85 kilowatt car from you.
Right.
So that extra 15 kilowatts is essentially never being paid for unless I unlock it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for the extra weight. Thank you for the free batteries, which I might want to unlock later. And I get that's totally a cool convenience. But from a manufacturing perspective, I don't see how
does it make sense.
Well, it's gotta because okay, so we've talked about the speed of the automation and especially the speed of the battery machines that Elon wants. You know, if you can see them, they're not moving fast enough, kind of thing. Streamlining this to create one battery pack size is streamlining. So you wouldn't need multiple batteries, you wouldn't need multiple programming, you wouldn't need multiple setups.
Right. But you're giving your customers probably 100 batteries for free.
But just like you said, imagine the possibility that you unlock the extra distance for a week while you drive from Ontario to Orlando and back, so that you can drive a little farther before recharging. Or
I don't know if they're going to let you give it back. I think it's probably going to be you got to buy it and they're yours. That's it.
Well, see, I don't know. But I'm saying, I mean, I'm just thinking business.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah.
You know, for a one-time charge, you get it for a week, and then maybe you only need it for that week, and then you're not paying for it any longer, or you buy it and you unlock it. Or, I mean, this does open up possibilities for later add-on service, so they might get that money later.
Let me give you an idea as to what the pack sizes are. They're dropping the numbers on the packs. So 85, 90, 100 kilowatt packs are not going to be included in the nameplates of the cars anymore. They're going to more of a Model 3 with a regular or long range type title. But the base Model S is going to get 310 miles, they say. The base Model X, 270 miles. Okay. And then you move into a mid-range. I'm sorry, they're calling it an extended range. And that goes to 335 for the S and 295 for the X. And then finally, they have a performance, which pushes it. The range actually drops because, of course, you've got the faster pull on the electrons. Drops to 315 for the S and 289 for the X. But, of course, the 0 to 60 times are dramatically quicker, 3 seconds and 3.5 seconds. So, and then there's finally a ludicrous mode of which, again, same mileages, 315 and 289, but it drops to a 2.4 second and a 2.8 second for the X.
And it costs $20,000.
And it costs a bunch of dollars.
$20K, baby.
So it depends on what you want.
You know, I realize this is my role, so I'm just going to fulfill it. But I really don't like this change in Tesla's nomenclature. I like the idea that the kilowatt hour was open, that it was just, you know what I mean? Like, I like that clarity, that transparency. Does it make a big difference? I don't know. Maybe not. But for me, the idea that there was an 85 and a 1 and whatever else,
I really like the idea that it's kind of future-proofed. You can buy the car at the low rate. You can buy at the lower battery size and discover that, oh, I made a mistake. You can upgrade.
Yeah,
you don't physically have to have anything done to the car.
So, no, absolutely.
But I agree with Russell. I think there's a lot of potential for future confusion as the battery capacities grow. You know, they're going to have a extended range, and then there's going to be a super extended range, and then a mega extended range. And how are they going to continue to name these over the next decade or 2 decades? Or are they going to revert back? And I don't know. At least when you just have a kilowatt, people can put that in some sort of perspective. You know, a bigger number is a bigger battery. You're probably going to have more range.
Right. And I think that's it. You know what I mean? Like, yes. Thank you, Evan. We agree? What the hell?
All right. Show's over, folks. That's it.
Almost. Last story of the
night.
day, of course, is the earnings call, which just wrapped up within the last few hours. And Tesla has reported that they made revenue of $7.014 billion for the fourth quarter, at about $2.08 per share. And that resulted in a net income of $139 million during the last 3 months. So that is Tesla's second profitable quarter. And it's the first quarter, it's the first quarter that's back to back with another profitable quarter. So 2 quarters in a row profit, never been done before at Tesla. Now they were down a bit, and that was apparently due to Tesla starting deliveries of the less expensive mid-range car, Model 3, that started last quarter. But surprisingly, they still were able to remain at a stable 20% in gross margin for the vehicles across the quarter as a whole. Their cash position actually has increased in the quarter, and they now have $3.7 billion in the bank at this point. But keep in mind, March 1st, I believe $920 million is a loan that's due.
Yep.
Yikes.
So, but again, $3.7 billion, that'll knock them down to $2.7 billion roughly, but that's still a lot more than what they were having in previous quarters. And they talk a little bit about the Tesla energy business. They've had deployments of 225 megawatt hours, and they talk about 73 megawatt hours of retrofitted solar systems. They are interesting is that they're predicting for car builds next year for 2019 they want to be at the low side, 360,000 cars up to 400,000. The letter stated. This year, as a reference, they did 245,000 cars.
I'll take that bet.
So it's it's certainly an increase. About 40% or so on the low side.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can achieve those numbers. It's not a perfect quarter ending, but certainly it's a positive one in the fact that they made their second profit. They've stayed at a 20% margin on the vehicles, which is great. That's helpful. And they're forecasting reaching 10,000 Model 3s a week by the end of 2019. 7,000 at Fremont, 3,000 at the new Gigafactory 3 in Shanghai. So lots of interesting stuff in the earnings call, but those are just some of the highlights that we saw today.
I'm going to real quick. This usually doesn't take long. But
okay, when you're stalling, that's not real quick, Tony.
So there were a couple nice quotes in there. I'll throw while Tony figures out what
stock's at 308 right now. Just
where was
that
it
out there?
Where was it this morning?
It's up slightly from this morning.
Yeah, this morning it was 300.
It's up slightly for the
week,
and down for the month.
Yeah, so in October it was 250 because he was bad mouthing the SEC, and then it rebounded to 376, dropped to 295, went up to 344, is now at 308.
It's basically the roller coaster it's always been.
It's always been, yeah. You know what? My parting shot here, and of course, this is my little hobby horse that I ride. I am still deeply disappointed in Tesla turning its back on the home energy business.
Right.
It makes me sad. Solar roof tile's still a pretend product that's not going to ever come out anytime in the near future. Elon shoved that thing farther down. It's a shame.
But I think Elon bet the company on the Model 3. He had to have the cells to put in the Model 3. There could not be a delay in getting the cars out. And you're right. Solar was sacrificed based on it.
Which is so depressing because we've read the articles. Is it in Pennsylvania? The factory they bought, Solar City, was
Buffalo,
it?
New York.
Buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Gigafactory 2.
Yeah, it was up there.
Still not making product.
Yeah, and the factory is like 2/3 empty, and they're just barely doing anything.
No, they're doing what's called a Foxconn.
Yeah. But it is depressing because you have people there who want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they'll get there. It's just that they've had priorities. They had to do something else with the battery pack cells, and therefore the power walls did not go out. As Russell can attest to, they just did not go out. They were used elsewhere.
But that's not solar tiles. I'm talking about
roof.
It's not, but it is,
solar
part of the package. It's part of the overall package, I guess you could say. But I don't know. I don't know. Will they be successful in solar?
No.
I don't know.
I'll make the call right now. At the end of the year, it's a worse year for them this year than it was last year.
It's going to be interesting. We should keep track of that.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, the local solar company actually that I used to install my solar system just switched over to Tesla panels and will be installing power walls. And I think with the tariffs that have been put on the imported panels, there may be some opportunity there, but we'll see.
They're using Tesla panels.
Mm-hmm.
From where?
I don't know.
So Tesla makes very, 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 very few solar panels in the U.S. The joint venture in Buffalo, and there's a little tiny factory in Milpitas. I'm gonna posit, just I'll opine that your local company's full of shit, and maybe selling something with a brand name that everybody loves that they're not getting.
Well,
it's possible.
I don't think so.
I know.
I
understand.
The CEO is a friend of mine, so I think he's straight up. I don't know the insides on it though.
Right. I just don't know where they would be getting them. Like, as far as I know, back in the day, Tesla never transshipped its products to other companies.
Right. And then this was definitely new. and
Yeah.
he's definitely one of the early people. So we'll see. All right, but we can't log off till I get to do a few of these quotes from the earnings call today.
All right.
Elon called the Model X, quote, the Fabergé egg of cars, end quote. He said, probably nothing like it will ever be made again, and maybe it shouldn't, but it is a work of art. And then he admitted that Tesla's initial system for service parts replacement was, quote, quite boneheaded, end quote. The company is shifting towards shipping parts directly to service centers. And then the Tesla CFO, Deepak Ahuja, God, I probably butchered that, is retiring. And the current VP of Finance, Zach Kirkhorn, will be succeeding him.
And Tupac has been there quite a while, hasn't he?
Yeah.
One of the few.
Yeah.
Well, in a finance department that's been devastated by changes.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what, if any, impact that has.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap on the show. That's enough for a day's work, I would say.
Absolutely.
Tony, any shout outs to grace us with?
Of course, to everyone in the chat room. It's Anders let me know that it is warmer in Stockholm than it is in Chicago. So yeah, thanks for that. Andy's going on a trip, so safe travels, Anders. Have a good trip. Everyone again in the chat room, thanks for hanging out. It's always great. I do love it when people come in the chat room and they say hey, and everyone says hey back, and someone comes in and goes, hey, sorry I'm late, and everyone's like, oh yeah, hey, and that's just a big happy. So so thanks for hanging out with us.
Very good, very good. Evan, what have you got for us today?
Well, I'm shouting out to Mark, unless you've gotten all your referrals. Did you get your 5 referrals yet?
Nope.
Oh, yeah. All right. Come on, people.
All right.
Mark.
Not there. Don't think the Tesla Roadster is in my future. No.
Oh, well, not you're 55, but you at least give a 5. But you've got, what, 2 days left?
2 days. 2
days
days
left
until
of
the
the referral
referral
program.
program is dead. So if you're buying a Tesla, please use my code and help me go to one of the events. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
That would be nice. But speaking of events, there is a event happening in Finland that a number of Tesla people got emailed about just recently, and they're having a snow experience where they're going to take some Model S's, X's, and 3s and drive them on a frozen lake bed in Finland. You can log on to the Tesla website and fill out a form and have a chance to win for you and a companion to go to Finland, all expenses paid, and drive on a frozen lake bed, or as we like to call in Ontario, Lake Ontario. I'd be really used to that already. I got the clothes for it. They should take me. I don't even have to buy a new coat. I've got one.
See?
Yeah. Mr. Frost, what do you have for us this evening?
That's what I got for you.
Give me a break.
That's about 9 miles from my house. That's all I'm saying, baby. That's all I'm saying. Okay?
Oh,
Yeah.
sad
San Diego
state
County
of
for the win.
affairs. Sad state of
Hey,
affairs.
cheers to everybody in the chat room. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. We'll probably have some follow-ups on the Tesla call next week. Just once everybody's had a chance to kind of digest it. I think it's so, information dense that dealing with it literally an hour or so after the call's over is really tough. So
very good. Good point. Good point. And wanted to let everybody know, again, if you haven't subscribed already to the channel, please press the subscribe button. Help us out. You can also follow us through the week live on our Twitter and Facebook feeds at The Tesla
Super.
Life on Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook, The Tesla Life #1. And you can see all of the action as it happens throughout the week. So join us on those forums, and we will see you coming up next week. And you'll be able to see what's happening in the Tesla life.
thank you,
Good night, everybody.
for the music.
Woo!
Tony Moon.
Moon.
The tracks are on fire.